In this video, we're going to take a look at the bridge tool. I have my scene here, piece to a fence. What I want to do is use my bridge tool to actually create a whole section of fence, and we'll add a little bit of detail to it. I'm going to select my geometry here. I'm going to duplicate this post and move it out so that I can set up my bridge. Now you can see my post has holes in it, and these are going to be the sections that I want to bridge. So first let's just duplicate our model, and we'll choose Edit, Duplicate, or we can choose the hotkey there, Control D. Gives me a duplicate. I'm going to hit W for my Move tool. I'm going to translate this out, and we're going to move this out 48 units. And that's going to give me the overall size or length of my particular fence piece here. But looking at my model, I have a problem. These holes need to be on the other side so that they line up with the holes of my original post. We can do that really easily. With that model selected, I'm going to scale it to a -1 in the Z, which in turn just kind of inverts my model. Now by doing that, I also want to freeze my transformations. We really don't like having negative values there, so we just want to get rid of that. And I'll choose Modify, Freeze Transformations. And that's just going to clean that negative value up and return us back to a nice normal setting. Now, in order to do our bridge, the objects must be of the same node. So right now, these guys are separate. If I click one, got to click the other. They're two separate nodes. I'm just going to select them both and choose Mesh, Combine. And now they've been united, and I select that, or I select that. It's all the same node, all under the same name. I'm going to get rid of that Unite history, so I have a nice clean model. Now I'm ready to do my bridge. I'm going to close that up just so we have a little bit more space here. To do our bridge, we want to select the open edges or the border edges. Double-click to get the entire loop, and that's one side there, and I'm going to swing around, hold Shift, and double-click the border edge for the other side. And we'll zoom out a little bit, and I'll go to Edit Mesh, and we'll choose Bridge. Let's open those tool options just to make sure, and I'm just going to reset, and we'll use our defaults here, and then we'll play around with it. So we'll hit Bridge. That creates a nice solid piece in between our object. Now what I can do is decrease or increase the number of divisions there. I'm just going to take those down because we really just don't need any of that geometry there. But the next bridge, we're going to. So I'm going to go back to Edge Selection here. And once again, select my border edges, hold Shift, double-click, and we'll apply the bridge. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom row. But before I do that, let's add a bunch of divisions here. I'm going to add 48 divisions. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for the bottom. Now you'll also notice there's something happened. And let's just take a quick look at that. My geometry is gone. I'm not seeing anything there. The geometry is actually there. This is a bug. It's a known bug. The shader that makes it look gray, that shader is not being applied properly to this new geometry. We can ignore it, and usually it'll update, and then they will get the shader, and it's kind of a problem that solves itself after a little while. But we can also just use default material, and then we don't even have to worry about it. So let's add another section to the bottom. Swing around, hold Shift, double-click my border edges, go to Edit Mesh, Bridge, and once again, we're going to add 48 so that it matches the top. Notice I just turned off my default material. The top bar looks good now. It got the shader reapplied, but now the new piece, the bottom bar, doesn't. So you can see again, it does fix itself after a little while. But we're just going to leave that default material on so we just don't even have to think about it. So let's go down here and let's add different sections and kind of explore what this bridge tool can do for us. I'm going to go to Face. And I'm going to delete some faces here so that I can bridge between this top bar here and the bottom bar here. I want to grab some of the inside ones. I'm going to grab that face there and delete it. And we'll also delete the opposing face beneath it. select the border edges, and we'll add a bridge. Now, I'm still just adding the default bridge here, but we can play with some of these options to get some different looks. I'm going to change my curve type here to blend. Notice that it shifted the edges that I have there. And I'm going to add a twist. So I'm going to go to twist, and we'll type in a value of 720. Basically, it's twisting my geometry around the blend between those two border edges. 720 degrees is what's happening there. Now that doesn't look very good because we don't have a lot of geometry. So I'll go back to my divisions and let's increase this to 20. Now we have a nice twisted pole there. But the normals are all hard. So I'm going to select all that geometry there and go to Mesh Display and just choose Soften Edge. And then I will take the straight lines and let's harden those. There we go. And so now the interior of that is going to be nice and soft while the outside is nice and hard. And I get a nice detailed bar for my little fence section. Let's just try one more piece here. I'm going to select both those faces, delete them. We'll select edges, shift select the bottom one, and once again add our bridge. This time, let's go into the attribute editor instead of using the in-view editor and expand some of our things here. So first, like we did with the in-view editor, we changed the curve type. And I'm going to do so again. I'm going to change it to a blend. And we'll add another 20 divisions. And we'll also give it that twist of 720. Basically, we've got the same thing here. But now underneath here, we have another option, which is our taper. I can actually click on the tapering effect, and you can see that we could thin it out or really increase that. What is even more powerful is that I can go in and set a graph here of where I want it to taper along the length of my bridge. This graph allows me to do so, and I can insert keys along that graph in order to get the effects that I'm after. And we can just click the X there to delete any of the keys we don't want. Now this button over here will expand that graph just so that we have a little bit more area to play in. So I'm going to add a key here. And let's drop this key, and I'm going to type in a position here. We'll just put that right at 0.5, right in the middle of it. And then I'm going to put a key on either side of it here. This first key we're going to put at 0.4. And this third one we'll put at 0.6. And let's just put those at a full value of 1. Grab that guy there. Position it all the way to the top. I'm going to select this guy in the middle. And we have a selected value of 1, but we can exceed that. So I'm going to hit 2 just to throw that in there. And we start to get just a little bit of a roundness. And we can play with that further, maybe go up to 3, something like that. We could even bring these down. And again, basically create all sorts of different types of shapes. Now we could even change the interpolation of how it goes from this point to this point here. Notice how the graph caps out at 1. We have a higher value there, but it only shows it up to a value of 1. But we can change that, and we can kind of smooth the interpolation between those 2 points so that we get a much better looking fall off between those points. Because this is extreme, we're not going to notice too much there. Let's take a break right here, and we'll come back and take a further look at our bridge tool.